Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, Clay Soil. My name is Purny and it's so good to see you. So today I have another fun video where I'm going to be repotting my 2 new jasmine plants that I bought and also show you the 2 jasmine plants that I already have in my collection. And it's really fun because they're all similar, but they're also different at the same time. Also, I am so surprised to see that a lot of pet lovers don't have jasmine in their collection. First of all, it will flower indoor or outdoor if all the things are right. And it's really easy to care for. So that to me is really cool, and it's just not very high maintenance, and but it's still a very versatile plant. You can have it outside during the springtime and then have it indoor during the winter time. So let's start with the first jasmine that I added to my collection, which is this one right here. It's an Arabian tea jasmine, also commonly known as the Maid of Orleans. So believe it or not, this is the very first jasmine that I ever got, which is also my very first plant ever. And when I first bought it from Amazon, it was this big. It was this big in a 4-inch pot, and now it's in a 15-inch pot. So if I can grow a jasmine, so can you. So I'm very excited to tell you all the different things about jasmines that I have come to learn while caring for this one. So anyways, as I said, this is a Maid of Orleans, but it has different names around the world. I believe in Bangladesh and India and that part of the world, it's commonly known as Beli or Mogra or Motia or Bella. That's what first intrigued me to get it, is because I remember growing up in Bangladesh and always smelling this flower. A little bit about this plant. So this one fact kind of goes across the board for all 4 of these plants. Light, it needs partial sun. It doesn't do well in full sun, and you will know very quickly because the leaves will become wrinkled and droopy and just sunburn. They do better in a bright spot that has shade. So when you give it that type of lighting, it thrives. But when you put it in full sun, it just doesn't do well. It doesn't produce a lot of flowers. Watering needs. So this is another thing that's kind of same across the board. When it's the growing season, spring and summer, you're gonna have to water it more often. And the nice thing about jasmine plants is they let you know. They're kind of dramatic, like the nerve plants. They get really droopy, they look really wrinkly, they just look like they're having the saddest day of their life. But then once you give them water, they perk right back up. So any of these, they'll let you know when they need water. So for this particular jasmine, the USDA zone is 9 through 10, which is 2 zones higher than where I live. So I definitely have to bring this back inside when it's fall or winter. So it's a very seasonal plant around here. But if you live in 9 through 10, you can definitely have this outside, and it should come back as a perennial every year. So this is supposed to be a vining type jasmine with a more rounded bush. So I have noticed that it's definitely bushy, as you can tell. It's definitely bushy. And I can tell it's definitely reaching. And actually these new growths right here, no growth points, they started growing after I bought them inside a couple of weeks ago. So that's really cool to see it still growing while everything else is cooling down. I think I'm going to try to put a trellis to see how it does. I haven't noticed it being very viney. I just noticed it being bushy. And also the cool thing about this plant is this spring, I took it out of the pot that I had it in, which was like a 6-inch pot, and I cut the roots. So I didn't know this, and I took a very big chance when I did it this spring, but I actually took out all the soil, washed off all the remaining soil, and I got it just to the bare roots. And then I trimmed the roots down because I didn't want it to get too big on me too quick. and I don't want to keep repotting it in a bigger pot every year, every 2 years. So what I noticed from that is it didn't die, thank God. It didn't die, but it did take a long time for it to kind of regenerate. So like I would say it took until like June or July where you can tell it was just kind of like, I don't know. And then, but once whatever happened in the soil, it just took off, and I was getting flowers like every week. And the one other thing I found out about jasmine is they like to be root bound, so it's okay if they're in there for like 2-3 years, and actually when they're root bound they give you more flowers. The last thing about this plant is it blooms in the spring and summertime only. Sometimes they have different times that they'll bloom, but this one is spring and summer. Okay, so on to the next. So the one behind me right here is a Stephanotis floribunda, which is also known commonly as a Madagascar jasmine. It's usually found in Hawaii, and this is a really cool plant too. It doesn't smell as much like a jasmine as you might think when you think of a jasmine. You know, it has a little bit of a different smell, but it still does smell like a jasmine. So the difference in this one is obviously it's a vining, trailing type plant. This one has the biggest leaves. It's soft and it's waxy. They're usually really glossy, and you have to clean the leaves when they get too much dirt on them, because that can also affect photosynthesis. So that's one thing to remember if you ever get this one. So the flowers on this is also a little different. This one has tubular flowers, and it usually grows in clusters. So this one, you get single flowers. Each bud will be its own flower. Whereas here, you'll just get these little sections of clusters. So in a cluster, there could be like 7 to 8 flowers. And these, you guys, they last for like a week to almost 2 weeks. So this spring, I decided I was gonna just pot it up and put it outside, and that's what I did. And you guys, it went like the bush was down here. You see this little ring? That's all it was. All of this and up is new growth. And this is like weaved into the trellis right now. So I probably have at least like 4 to 5 feet of growth. It definitely grew a lot once I put it outside. Again, this is the same thing. It needs partial sun. It doesn't like full sun. It will get wrinkly. It won't perform as well for you. The watering is the same. The other thing is you have to let these acclimate to coming back inside, because you have to remember, like when they're outside, they're getting the right type of sun, they're getting the right type of humidity, they're getting the right type of water, and then you bring them inside where it's dry and not humid and has cold spots and not enough sunlight. It's this one's a little, you know, it's not liking it right now, but I know it'll bounce back, so I'm not worried about that one. This is supposed to be a slow growing type jasmine, but I haven't noticed that. Like I said, once I put it outside, it just grew really fast. So maybe it just depends on wherever you live and how much sun it's getting and humidity, all that stuff. The time of the year that this plant will bloom is also spring and summer. Okay, so this is the third jasmine that I added to my collection, and this is a Jasminum sambuc, which is another type of Arabian jasmine, and it's also commonly known as the Grand Duke of Tuscany. So the way you'll know that it is a Grand Duke of Tuscany are the leaves. They don't lay flat, they curve over like that. And the leaves are about 3 inches long, and they're an oval shape. And it's funny because the lady next door that sold it to me, she tried to tell me this was an orchid. I mean, I knew it was a jasmine. You could smell and you can tell it's jasmine. When I asked her what type of jasmine, she was like, it's an orchid. And then I was like, lady, it's not an orchid, okay? Anyways, so then like I Googled it and I found out that it was a Grand Duke of Tuscany, and what helped me figure out what type of jasmine it was the petals. Again, like a lot of the times you'll be able to tell which type of jasmine it is by the type of leaf it has. So just some of the, I'm gonna talk while I pop this plant for you guys. So just some of the same things. It needs partial bright sun. You can't have it in fully bright sun. And it needs more water during the growing season, but during the winter seasons, you don't need to give it as much water. So I'm going to use a very airy soil mix of potting soil, indoor potting soil, and perlite. Perlite is the gently take it out. I just usually squeeze, and it should come out. Yes. So it's coming out, and then we will just put as much of the soil back in there. So I'm just gonna position it to how I want it, and then I'm just going to add soil all around it. Then just mix it all in. Also keep it centered. Does anybody else have a hard time centering their plants? I feel like I always think it's centered, and then I get it in and I look at it after I'm done putting soil in, and then I'm like, it's not centered at all. So just try your best to center it. It definitely needs more water during the summertime, but in the wintertime, it doesn't really require a lot of a lot of water. So just be careful that you don't overwater during the wintertime, because you can kill it. You can kill it by root rot. All right, so we're almost to the top. The USDA hardiness zone for this is 11. So for most of us, this is going to be an indoor-outdoor plant, meaning during the spring and summer, you can put it outside, and then during the winter time, fall and winter, you gotta bring it back inside. You can train it to go up a trellis, or you can just let it stay upright on its own. It is a shrub vining type of jasmine, so I think it'll do fine. It's pretty tall right now, and it doesn't need a trellis right now, but if you want to give it a trellis, you can. Okay, so that one is all taken care of. I will water this after I'm done with this video. Okay, so the last jasmine that I'm going to show you is this Jasminum polyanthum, which is also known as a pink jasmine. I have never seen a pink jasmine in my life, so when I saw it, you best believe I was like, I'm gonna buy it. So this is another vining type jasmine, and you can either let it grow up a trellis and become like this huge thing, or you can let it just simply hang over like a ground cover. I bought this from Amazon a couple weeks ago, and it's not in the best shape because they didn't really package it really well, but it's not doing bad. I know it's not the right growing season, so it might just stay like this until it starts to get warmer, and then who knows, it might just push out. But my goal is to give it as much love and care as I can, and hopefully it'll start giving me new leaves and just look better. But it's typically supposed to have glossy foliage. Right now it looks a little dull. So the pink buds are tubular shaped as well, and they're white flower petals, and they go from like a dark pink to white flowers. So that's really cool. That's what kind of drew me to get this. And from all the photos I've seen, it's way more like a night blooming jasmine, the yellow kind. I don't know the name of it. That's on my list next to buy. And so this one is supposed to have a lot, like a clusters, like how these are single flowers on their own buds. This is a cluster, and I believe this will be like a cluster of jasmine flowers as well. Same watering needs. I might not even have to put a lot of soil into this one. Let's see. So I forgot to mention, I use these little plastic screens that I bought from Amazon to put on the bottom of my pot so that most of the soil doesn't just wash away every time I water the plant. So I'm just gonna kind of lay this around. Let's see, this might, yep. See, I didn't even need to put too much soil. So that's awesome. Just a few things. Watering needs are the same. During spring and summer, more pay attention more to the watering. Maybe once or twice a week, depending on how well you water it. And then also partial sun. So the difference in this jasmine is that it's supposed to bloom late winter through early summer. So when all of these three are hibernating for the winter month, I'm hoping by December or January, this one's going to bloom for me. So I'm gonna really try to take care of it for the next month or so. And let's see how it does. That's so cool. Like, I've never heard of a jasmine that can bloom late winter through early summer, which is another reason to have this in your collection, people. So like I said, it's a trailing plant, and you can also let it be a ground cover. You can also have it indoor and outdoor. All four of these, they are supposed to be very fragrant, which I know 3 of them are. So I can't wait to see how this one, like how fragrant this one is. Oh, I also want to show you what type of fertilizer I use. I've used pretty much the same type of fertilizer for these two, and they have done really well. So I'm gonna just continue using it for these two as well. So I use the Alaska More Bloom fish emulsion. This stuff smells really bad, so don't take a big whiff of it or anything like that. But the thing about jasmines is you want it to produce more bloom. So you want to pay attention. You want to pay attention to the numbers that you see right here. So the first number, that's 0, you don't want that to be higher than the second 2. The first one is nitrogen, and then it is phosphorus, and then it's potassium. So you want a fertilizer that has more phosphorus and potassium, which is going to help it get more blooms, as opposed to nitrogen, which nitrogen helps it produce more leaves. So just kind of remember that in general when you're getting fertilizer or like tropical plants that are just foliage. You definitely want to get a fertilizer that has more nitrogen and less of the other 2, potassium and phosphorus kind of thing. But for this one, I use one that's 0, 10, 10. And it's been working really well, giving me a lot of blooms. I use it every 2 weeks during the growing season. I have not used it at all since it's fall now. You can use it like once a month or every 2 weeks. And what I do is you have to be careful, read the directions. What I've been doing is I've been using the cap, and I just put in like 2 capfuls of fish emulsion into a gallon of water, and that seemed to be doing fine too. And I believe it says to apply every 3 weeks during the growing season. And for shrubs and vines, it says 2 tablespoons per gallon of water. So I think that's it. I have told you all my little tips and tricks, and I'm so excited to see how these 2 new ones do. And I also have my eyes on a few other jasmines that I have seen on the internet, but I'm kind of waiting on buying them because it's starting to get too cold and I don't want them to come damaged or dead. So I might have to wait till spring to get those. But there's definitely so many different kinds that you can find all over the world. From what I did research, there's over 200 types of jasmine all around the world. So wouldn't that be cool if I could have like a jasmine garden of its own in my house? Don't give me ideas, guys. It's too exciting to think about. But yeah, I hope that you will go out and buy yourself a jasmine plant because you will love it. And it really does do well. Also, if you liked this video, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up. And also click the bell icon so that you will be notified whenever I create a new video. And thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.